Vice Admiral, report. Yes, Admiral. The Vice Admiral's voice was strained as he struggled to keep up with the new flood of data coming in. It seems like the Ration fleet is divided into 5 squadrons of 1 dreadnought and 3 to 4 battleships each, with approximately 20 cruisers and destroyers. They also have launched hundreds of what appear to be parasite craft. Each Ration squadron is headed spinward on a different heading. Could they be running? Unlikely, Vice Admiral. Their squadrons are estimated to meet the edges of our wall of battle. If they wished to run, they would have avoided us altogether. Noted. Nerya was perplexed. Space battle was fought by bringing your wall of battle to the enemy, locking horns with them to determine the stronger force. The weaker fleet then surrendered. That was the way every space battle in the history of the League had been fought. These Rations, they were doing something different, and Nerya didn't like it. All ships, divide fire by sectors. Bring them down before they close. Vice Admiral, divide our wall of battle into 5 smaller units, each one will maneuver to face one of the Ration thrusts. Nerya tried to exude as much calm as possible, but inside, she was nervous. She hadn't been nervous since her first command. Yes, Admiral Nerya, reforming fleet now. In space, the million-mile-wide formation of the League fleet clumsily fractured into 5 square planes, each one attempting to angle their mushroom cap-shaped vessels toward the approaching Ration. The reorganization was clumsy, ship captains reacting slowly to the unfamiliar orders. Some of the squares were larger than others, with individual League species choosing to keep their ships together, rather than splitting them between multiple battle walls. Admiral, we're beginning to take fire. Lasers and particle beams. The view screens flashed white. That was one of the Queel battleships. It appears that each Ration squadron is focus firing on one of their targets at a time. The Queel ship's shields were overwhelmed. Nerya clenched her grasping hooves in frustration. Continue maneuvers, we still outgun them by a significant margin. As if on cue, a Ration battleship winked off the display, victim to Bonthan lasers. Admiral, the Ration are accelerating. 2 of our 5 battle lines will not reform before the Rations reach them. Readings show that Ration ships can accelerate nearly twice as fast as ours. The 5 Ration squadrons poured on the speed, lancing toward the League battle walls. 3 of them were met by reformed formations, which rained laser fire onto the approaching ships. 2 of the Ration squadrons, however, reached the League ships before they could turn and face them. Racing along the edge of the League formations, they picked off ship after ship as they brought their entire squadron's firepower to bear on one ship at a time, while the League ships struggled to keep their rounded half-spheres faced toward the Ration. Then, unthinkably, the Ration cruisers and destroyers separated from the rest of their squadrons and penetrated the wall of battle itself. The League wall of battle was designed to face other similarly arrayed formations, trading blows across space. Victory was decided by the fleet that could bring the most ships with the largest guns to bear on the enemy. For thousands of years, this was how battle had been joined by the League. For thousands of years, its crews and ships had been trained and designed for this kind of battle. No one, it appeared, had informed the Rations that this is how things were done. As the smaller Ration ships raced through the heart of the League formations, the battle walls disintegrated. Each ship struggled to keep its armored facing pointed toward the Ration cruisers and destroyers that sliced through their ranks. What's worse, hundreds of Ration skirmisher craft joined the battle, weaving and corkscrewing between the League capital ships. The League fleet was caught completely unprepared. With each ship designed for engagements against other capital-sized combatants, none of them possessed significant point defense, allowing the Ration skirmishers to make strafing runs all but unmolested. Individually, these craft were nothing but an annoyance. but in numbers they were deadly. There were too many and too fast to keep the armored mushroom caps of the League ships pointed toward them. And the small ration craft exploited this mercilessly, raking fire across the vulnerable interior of the League ships where their armored half-sphere shell did not protect. As a ship was damaged and fell out of formation, the ration fighters swarmed the disabled vessel like so many piranhas that smelled blood. Admiral Neryaw gaped as her command fell apart around her. Sirens sounded through her ship as it rocked from explosions and particle beam impacts. Acrid smoke from fried circuitry filled the bridge as the air handlers struggled to keep up. On her holoscreen, she watched helplessly as more and more League ships winked out. Closing her eyes, she uttered words that had not been said by a Bonthan admiral in living memory. All ships, retreat. Aboard the Helena, Admiral Davies watched grimly as the TAC plot showed the battle occurring several million miles away. Neryaw was smart to divide her forces. They managed to do some damage before the ration closed. On the TAC plot, the icons of the League fleet began to reverse course, heading back to the edge of the system and the fleet train, which included the Helena and the rest of the Dreeden human fleet. Fleet, prepare for full burn to these coordinates. Set condition 1. The Admiral touched a symbol on her station, and a blinking icon appeared on the TAC plot, several millions of miles from the fleet's current position. Acceleration warning sounded throughout the ship as crew members strapped themselves into grav couches. Inertial dampeners would compensate for most of the G-forces, but after a point, they could not suppress all acceleration effects. The flag bridge's lights dimmed, replaced by red emergency lighting. Admiral Davies took a deep breath. Mark. Helena shuddered as its engines roared to life and its crew were pressed back into their acceleration couches. At 120 gravities, the inertial compensator negated all but 3 Gs, but that was enough to make the experience uncomfortable at best. The rest of the combined Dreeden human fleet followed suit, burning hard for a point in space at an angle from the League fleet's retreat path. Ambassador Nesh was almost enveloped by the protective cushion of his acceleration couch. Supplemental oxygen flowed through a tube in his nasal cavity as breathing became difficult. Nesh knew, however, what he was experiencing at only a third the weight of a human was not nearly as uncomfortable as what the Admiral and human crew were feeling. Why are we not meeting the League fleet along their retreat path? He managed to squeeze out between labored breaths. I thought I said no questions. Admiral Davies wheezed in reply. A moment later, she relented. They won't be able to retreat that way. Any moment now, they will near the gas giant, and when they do. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you want to listen to the subsequent parts of this story.